Okay. All right. So belief. Belief is important for anything. Because if you believe it, you can do it. So awareness is realizing what's out there, what's possible. If you have no awareness, you just walk around with your head in the dirt, right? Like an ostrich. But once you put your head out of the sand and you can actually see, oh, they can run and jump and throw the ball into the basket. Oh, maybe I can do that too. Right. So, how do we use AI in all of this? Well, we ask the AI real question in your own words and watch it answer like a real person. Simple. So now it can show you that I can talk to it and it can give me back something that I need. And it's like, whoa, mind blown. That right there starts to creep in the level of belief. All right. So you ask one question in plain English, you go back and forth until it gets it right. And these are the areas of different belief. So for a beginner, just ask it a question and it'll give you back an answer. All right. Ask one real question in your own words. And that's all. And belief is different for many people because for some of us, we tend to believe based off of what we've been told, what we've been taught, right? And not necessarily on what we have done. See, I'm someone that no matter what you tell me, I often look to find belief in what I've experienced. So I always try to experience something, experiment with something before I can fully believe that it's so. You often hear me say this: we operate off of data, not vibes. A lot of people, vibes is what they operate off of, which gives them belief enough to move forward. But like I said, everything is a dance. It should be vibes, but it should be backed by data. And then that can kind of reinforce the vibes. And then you're able to kind of parse what about these vibes align with the data? And if you go back and forth, you are able to now go from a wide gap to a lesser, closer gap, and until you're really figuring out that your vibes is really powered by data and it refines what the vibes are. That right there is the way to build real belief, in my humble opinion. And with that, it helps you gain context. So when we talk about context, you got to tell it what you know, right? So if it's giving you data, it's giving you information, you give it vibes back and forth, you know. AI is only as good as the information that you give it. You give it weak context, it gives you back weak answers. You give it detailed context, it gives you back better answers. Garbage in, garbage out. So before I ask you this, one, I'd like for you to operate and think like a five-star athlete, a championship coach, a executive marketer, a fireman, a plumber, a systems architect. You want to give it a role You want to give it who does it have to start thinking like to get to this place. And this is different than just prompting. This is ultimately the context. You ever told someone a story and they don't understand where you're coming from with it? Whether you're talking about a time you were on a cruise ship versus a time that you were on an airplane versus a time that you were in a jungle somewhere or you were on the block. Like you need to start giving people kind of context so they can shape this world that they are about to make the decision from, or they maybe can enjoy the story. You know, when you say game four, and when Anobi, OG and Anobi comes in and tips the ball in. All right, that means a lot of things. You have to give it context. You say, oh, the Knicks were down by 29 points, or OG Anunoby plays for the New York Knicks. Okay, what position does he play? How was he able to come in and tip the ball? Oh, he was out of bounds. You know, he was an out of bounds inbounder. Okay. Oh, this was the fourth quarter. There was 5 seconds left. The Knicks had already come down from, like, all of this gives it context to make that final session of, oh, he tips the ball in. Then you say there were two other Spurs players jumping for the ball. How did he get there? Nobody blocked him out. So all of these bits of detail gives it more and more context. So now you're getting a real crystal clear vision of what the situation is. You get what I'm saying? That is how you develop context. The more information, the better, most of the time. So, how AI works in one picture, as we say. You give it context, it finds the patterns, and then you make the call. Okay? You can say, even with the context and the patterns, you can say, give me three options, always the best to the worst option, and that way you can make the call. And then you take that and you do the loop again, and it can refine it and get it better and better. So now, what we're going to do is we're going to go to watch live build, because earlier we were developing a video. So now I have a bit of an explainer video for you that
AI Mindset Live webinar. I'm jumping in for the next 4 to 5 minutes to give you a rapid fire breakdown of the absolute chaos we saw in AI news this past week. We're going to look at how AI just crossed that crazy threshold from being a theoretical capability straight into massive real world deployment across our government, our enterprises, and honestly, our daily workflows. So here's our quick roadmap for today. We're covering the agentic model boom, the cyber defense race, California's mecha deployment, the Darwinian workplace, and finally, the triple IPO season. Let's just dive right in. Section 1, the agentic model boom. Smarter, faster, cheaper. Okay, Anthropic's Claude Sonnet 5 literally changed the economics of AI overnight. You know how you used to need those massive, incredibly expensive flagship models for autonomous tasks? Well, not anymore. Sonnet 5 brings Opus level agentic performance, and I'm talking about it clicking browsers and running terminals completely autonomously for just $2 per million input tokens and $10 for output. It's a game changer that is quite literally rescuing enterprise budgets and making widespread agentic automation economically viable instantly. And get this, the hardware is totally matching that blistering pace. Cerebras is pushing OpenAI's GPT 5.6 Sol on wafer scale hardware to a staggering 750 tokens per second. To put that into perspective, standard GPUs run at about 50. So this 15x speed increase fundamentally changes interactive AI, making real-time, zero latency workflows an actual reality. I mean, it literally thinks faster than we can read. But, to make all this incredible speed actually useful, we have the Model Context Protocol, or MCP. Think of it kind of like a universal adapter. Instead of your programmers having to hand build these fragile bridges to legacy software, MCP lets these brilliant models seamlessly plug directly into the messy software your business actually runs on. It's essentially giving the AI hands to do the work. Moving on to Section 2, the cyber defense race. Months, not years. We are seeing a rapid, frankly terrifying escalation in national security. Mid June brought immediate U.S. export controls on Fable 5 and Mythos 5. Then, by June 22nd, the Five Eyes Intelligence Alliance issued a really rare joint warning stating plainly that AI powered cyber attacks are now months away, not years. The threat is literally at our doorstep. And just to prove why AI driven defense is completely non negotiable now, late in June, Claude Mythos 5 discovered Squid Bleed. This was a critical memory leak in the widely used Squid proxy server that had somehow survived 29 years of human code reviews and security audits. 29 years! Human audit teams simply cannot sustain the depth and scale of analysis that AI can. All right, Section 3, California's mega deployment AI at state scale. California just signed a massive landmark deal giving 300,000 state workers access to Anthropic's tools at a 50% discount, all centralized through their SITS portal. They even built a custom assistant named Poppy specifically for state tasks and threw in free workforce training. From the DMV to Medicaid caseworkers, frontier AI models are officially core civic infrastructure. Which brings us to Section 4, the Darwinian workplace, adapt or perish. There is a really harsh new management philosophy emerging out there right now. Nikesh Arora, the CEO of Palo Alto Networks, recently called the current AI skills gap a Darwinian moment. He claimed 90% of employees lack the necessary AI skills. And this has led to this fatalistic evolve or get cut mentality, with some major firms now hiring almost entirely through these high pressure stress test hackathons. But there's a massive gap between executive posturing and effective management. Executives are treating talent as a survival contest, a literal Darwinian purge. But in reality, great workforces have to be intentionally designed. If AI is reshaping every single role, well, that's a structural design problem, not an excuse to turn hiring into an elimination round. And the economic data is giving us absolute workforce whiplash. Heavy AI adopters are actually expanding their headcount by over 10%, and 57% of technical users feel AI raised their market value. Yet at the exact same time, 39% of leaders have already made employees redundant due to AI. It entirely depends on whether your company views AI as a capability expander or just a payroll slasher. Finally, Section 5, the triple IPO season, the wealth divide. We are entering what's being called a triple IPO season, and it threatens to mint dozens of new billionaires practically overnight. SpaceX already went public mid-June at $135 a share. OpenAI is targeting a September IPO with an estimated $300 billion valuation, and Anthropic is targeting October with a jaw-dropping $965 billion post-money valuation. This is an absolutely massive influx of liquidity hitting the market. Because of this, we are seeing a severe economic barbell effect playing out in tech hubs. Enormous equity and compensation are concentrating at the very top for frontier lab researchers. Meanwhile, mid-tier technical work is being rapidly commoditized and automated by those exact agentic models we talked about earlier. And right at the other end of the spectrum, support staff are facing total wage stagnation while the cost of living just skyrockets around them. So with agents now actively running our code, defending our infrastructure, and commoditizing traditional skills, I really want to leave you with this final thought. Are we intentionally designing our future workforce, or are we all just trying to survive it? All right, that is your rapid fire AI news sprint for today. I'm going to toss it back over to Major Dream to finish up today's Major AI Mindset webinar. Major Dream, take it away.
Wow. That, my friends, that was a lot. That was a lot. I okay. What is the takeaway from that? You as a builder, Let's take a pause and take that all in. That was a lot. And okay, so what I'm hearing, obviously, we now have access to models that are operating a bit better. So Anthropic has now pushed the limit a bit. Mythos was the big scary model. Mythos distilled itself to a thing called Fable 5, which was taken out of the mix. But come on, once it's built, it's built. So it was only a matter of time before it got all of the other models better. So the model that you're able to use right now in Anthropic is cheaper, faster, better. Cool. The model has now found a 29-year issue that they've solved. So you can see how fast it can move from people, because 29 years of having a vulnerability and nobody was able to see it. That's So AI can fix that. So better code, better security. Now we're talking about $1 trillion companies now that are coming out of the gate. So there's going to be a lot of people making money. Now, who gets to make that money? People that are already in position. What are these people doing? They're hiring more AI and they're causing people to not just, they call it a Darwinian moment. Now, what did they teach you about Darwin? Survival of the fittest. So you now have all of these people out there that are now scared. I want to use AI because they want to get into these companies. I look at it differently. I think these companies are old. They're not as nimble, even though, because the people that run them aren't able to think the way AI needs you to think, right? So I look at it differently. I look at this marketplace that they're trying to dominate can be fractioned by many smaller companies with AI agent teams that get to use the same models, but are thinking a bit more nimbly, right? Versus taking these people who are forced to learn something different, but haven't really changed the way that they think, right? They're just getting tools. Learning to use tools, but they don't really know how to manage the road. So there's a lot of nuance in this, but I still see great amounts of opportunity for you in this space if you choose to take on this task. You know, California is getting its own AI, but the thing is this, you still have people that probably are either too young to really kind of be clever with it. They can be smart, but they're not clever. They have no wisdom. And you have the older ones who are like, oh, I have to learn this. So the pressure, the anxiety, the parasympathetic, these kind of nervous systems either ramp up or shut down. There's going to be a lot of people that are going to be sick. I can definitely tell you that, because stress, it just affects the body. It's either I do this or I lose my job. It's so, I feel for them. I really do feel for them. But I say this, as long as you're able to capture the right kind of mindset in this, well then you'll be able to carve out your lane and avoid all of this chaos. Because that's really all that it is, just a bunch of chaos. For instance, so let's talk about what I built this week, or what we've been working on this week. Um, a vault, a vault to collect all of your videos, your books, your writing, your voice notes, and it's simply a meta tagging layer. That's it. That's all it is. Any type of data, image, file that you have, you load it into the system, and it totally just tags it. That's really it. Not wanting to be very confusing. So, and the cool thing about it is that I was just totally able to use it within Google Drive, right? That's really what it's about, and it's a folder system. This is the main folder here, and it's a folder system. So upload here first. So inside you have folders, videos, photos, videos, voice notes, ideas, journal, client story, any new type of copy, references, inspiration, books, music, mood boards. All right. And the client and Theo never has to wonder where something goes. He simply drops it in, and then the back end does everything. And that is what you ultimately want your client to feel. You want them to feel not just seen, but totally understood. All right. And you have a system that is, so let's go through this slightly. So you have your admin layer, you have your brand layer, everything permanent. So logo, brand guides, fonts, colors, mood boards, icons, photography style, branding, story, mission, taglines, press kit. All right. That's that's one thing. Then you have the website. All right. And with that, you are focusing on the copy, the homepage, the about, the services, the photography, the visual ball, FAQ, SEO, wireframes, designs, components, exports, and also add one shots, Google AI Studios, Aura, Vercel screenshots, and feedback. So, how I use Google here, I use the AI Studio when I take a prompt and I just want to see what the idea looks like. You give it a quick one shot, and you have to give it context. You have to give it tools, a little bit of environment. You really kind of map this thing out. Then you give it a one shot, and it kicks back what you're actually trying to build, which is super awesome. And it's a great way to start to ideate with a client, because once they get to kind of see it, then we talk about it. So, what is the client flow engine? So, building the client flow engine. So, intake form, discovery, the client journey, the CRM, the automation, the emails, the follow ups, the scoring, the lead routing, the offers, sales scripts, client agreements. All of that goes in this file. So with that one file where you're just saying upload everything here, we upload it just in one file. That's the doorway of the vault. Then once it gets behind there, everything just gets sent to where it is, and it's tagged. That's what's even more important. So 5 years down the road, when you have to find something, guess what? It finds it. Then you have your visual vault. So this is where the good stuff comes, because he has not just content, but he's also a photographer. So he has things that can be sold or licensed. But initially, we start off with the raw videos, raw images, and then we have the edited ones, then we have the collections. Then we have the portraits, the healing sessions, the embodiment, the nature, Bali, and all of these at this stage and point, all of this stuff will be personalized. What this allows me to do is pretty much build out about 60% of the whole process for any client right off rip. It's already built 60%. And then we're able to personalize the next 40%, like he has his licensing items here. All right. So not everybody needs licensing, right? But he has something a bit different, which is always going to be that for you. So let's see here. The offers, the embodiment, the photography, because honestly, you need your offers set up, you need them designed. What am I offering? How much am I charging? And so forth. So all of these aspects are being what we built out this week. All right. So that is what the fun client build, of the week has been, which has been pretty exciting, because it started out with me really just building it for myself, and realizing that most of the things that you build for yourself, you should be able to have some sort of use for others. And if you do it that way, then you'll always have something really cool for your clients, right? So look, Likkle by Likkle, you start here. How do I even start? Just show up. Just show up. I'll repost these on YouTube. We're looking to get community built up. Tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend. Just show up. That's it. Once you show up, and you'll start to get to the conversation. As you can see, it's not a very technical conversation and not a very technical talk. It's more an entertaining, a contextual talk. We'll answer your questions, but at the end of the day, just show up. That's it. Build one thing with context. Pick one little small thing that you want. Try out Notebook LM. Do some research. Make a podcast. Just play around with it, because if you don't play around, you won't be able to move forward in this. And whatever's done, whatever's not here, as you can see, it'll be in the vault. You'll get access to the vault. We'll get this all set up. There'll be more builds. I'm gonna put a landing page down and invite you all in. So we got more stuff to go on this week. Just watch, build with us, which is more important. So we're gonna do this every Sunday. Every Sunday, every Sunday. I'll have to update this little date right here, but every Sunday, which is Saturday night in the States, but every Sunday morning we'll be here. It's free. Likkle by Likkle, folks. Likkle by Likkle. Big up.